Okay, so right now we are starting a new chapter completely, and this chapter is multiple row functions. So we are still working on functions because basically what makes your SQL query very powerful are functions. So for a while now, we have been working on single row functions, which is this, and we just concluded that. So now we want to do multiple row functions. These were all the single row functions that we just concluded: character functions, date functions, number functions, conversion functions, and general functions. We are going to work on the multiple row functions. Now, what is different between these multiple row functions and the single row functions? In the single row functions, for every time you make a query, you are going to pass each row to the function, and then the function will work on the row and give you an output. But for group function, which is actually multiple row functions, group functions operate on set of rows to give one result. So you can take, for example, like this diagram you are looking at, you can see the salary column. So what it will do is it will take the whole of the salary column and then it will find the maximum. So you are supplying salary to it. So max is one type of multiple row function. So you will supply the entire row to it, and then it will check all the rows and find out the maximum and give you that output. That's what it's saying. So these are different types of group functions. We have average, count, max, mean, uh, standard dev, standard deviation, sum, variance. There are many, but at least these are the few ones we are going to look at. And then you look at this diagram, simply telling you that you supply multiple rows and then you are getting out one single output based on these multiple rows. That is what it does. Now, this is the syntax for a multiple row function. Now, look at it. We have our select list, the select clause, from clause, the where clause, other by. You can see that this where clause and the other by are in the square bracket, which means they are not compulsory. So the mandatory ones that you must always have is the select clause and the from clause. So in this select clause, you supply the group function. So you can see group function, then you can supply column. So what this is saying is the group function is placed after the select keyword. You may have multiple group functions separated by commas, like as you are seeing. Guidelines for using the group functions. This thing makes the function consider only non-duplicate values. All makes it consider every value, including duplicate. The default is all, and therefore does not need to be specified. You will see all that practically. The data types for the functions expression with an expression argument may be character, variable character, number, or date, depending on the type of function. All group functions ignore null values. To substitute a value for a null value, use the NVL, NVL2, and the qualis or the qualis functions. Now you are going to see how this NVL and NVL2 will become useful when it comes to group functions. Because like I said, all group functions ignore null values. So let's go practically and see some of these functions, this average, count, max, minimum, standard def, sum, variance. See how to use them practically following this syntax. If you have, for example, now we say select star from employees. When I run this is what it's going to give me, right? So I'm going to use different group functions to manipulate my output. Now, we have average, we have sum, we have mean, we have max. Those are functions that can work on numeric data. So looking at this salary, I'm going to use some of those functions for this salary. So some of the functions that I showed you are average, right? Then we have, let me use caps lock to just type them. Average. We have sum. We have mean. we have max. These are functions that can work on numeric characters or numeric data type. So if I'm going to use them, let me just, as if I'm ending it there. So if I'm going to use them in any query, I can say select, right? Following the syntax, the next thing I'm going to supply now is the function. So I can say select, like what you saw in that diagram, max, right? I'm calling the function max. Then I'm going to supply uh, a column name to it, telling it to give me the maximum of that column. So like what you saw in that diagram, I'm going to supply salary column to it. So I'm telling this max to tell me the highest salary from the salary column. So I will say from employees. So I terminate. So I'm just going to run this and it will give me, can you see that? So it's telling me that the maximum salary is 24,000. Now, if I come back here and I click, look at this place. You can see that this 24,000 is for Stephen King, and Stephen King is the president. Can you see? So he's the one having the maximum salary. So I can now, I just call one single group function, which is max. I can now put comma here and call minimum and then supply that salary column to it again. Can you see that? So it's going to give me two columns. So it will show me the highest salary and the lowest salary from employee. I'll run it. Can you see? So it's telling me that the highest salary is 24,000 and the lowest salary is mean sal is 2,100. And it is taking this as the column name. Can you see that? It's taking that as the column name. Are you with me? Okay. Now, we also said, so I can select maximum salary, minimum salary from employees. Then I can add another one again to it. I can add average. I can call another function again, call average. And I will supply that salary to it again. So average is going to calculate. You know how they calculate average in mathematics? So I can supply the salary column to it too. So it will give me 3 columns. See? It's calculating the average salary. So it's going to add everybody together, all the salaries together, divided by the total number of employees that we have. I can equally add the sum, all this one. So I can say sum, and then I will supply the salary column to it again. And that will give me how many, so you can see the total salary in the company is 691,416. That is total salary in the company. We can use this mean and max for what? For number, character, and date data types. We can use it. So I can say select, I will call max, and then I will supply the date column to it. Let me remove this back. If I run this one, this date, higher date. So I can say max, higher date. I want to see from employees. So when I call this one and I run it, it's showing me 21 April 2008. Now, I can now come here again and say min. I can call the min function and supply the same higher date to it. Then I run this one. So it's showing me the oldest and the newest employee. So the oldest employee in the company is was January 2001, while the newest employee is 2008. Can you see that? So I'm using the maximum and the minimum group function to be able to determine that. Are you with me? I can equally supply this min and max to character. I can say select max, and I can supply last name, and then I can equally say min, and I can supply last name column to it too. Then I will say from employees. I will terminate it. So it will tell me the employee that is having Z as the starting of the name is this person, while Abel is the first one. So I can equally use all those ones for, I can use max, I can use minimum for character data type, and I can equally use it for date data type. But this average sum I use for what? Number data type. But this is how you can call the group functions to find out anything that you want to find out. You want to find out the maximum salary, you want to find out average of these, maximum of that, standard deviation, all those things. There are group functions that will help you do that. So you just call the function, you supply the parameters that you want to it, and then it will tell you, it will give you your output. So it's dealing with the entire rows. But as we go on, you'll be seeing how we'll be changing it. Now, I used that count earlier. Count. Now, count has um, three formats. So I can say select, then I'll call count. Count is also a function. It's a group function. Now, this count has three formats. That is three form of manifestation. So I can say count, then I will say star from employees. So with this one now, I'm telling the system to tell me the entire employees. How many employees do we have? So this one is going to count number of rows in a table, including duplicate and null values. This particular one is going to count the number of rows in a table, including duplicate and null values. So when I say select count from employees, so it's telling me that I have total number of 107. If I come here and I run this, see, it's showing me the first 50. Now, when I scroll down to the bottom, so you can see I have 107. So instead of me to do this, I want to know the total number of employees in the company. I can just call this count function. And supply star to it. Already you see, select star from employees is giving you all the employees. Now, I don't want to see all of them appear like that. I don't want to count. How many employees do we have in the company? So I will just say select count, and then I will supply that star as a parameter to it from employees. So it will just tell me how many employees we have, 107. That is what we have. So that is one appearance of count. So there is another type of format for count, which is select, right? Then count. Inside, you supplied a column name to it. This one will supply a column name. Now, this one will return. So if I click here, so I have, for example, I have commission percentage. Now, if I supply that commission percentage column to this count, commission underscore PCT from employees. I said all group functions ignore null values. So when we run this, when we say select count commission percentage from employees, it's not going to count all the employees that are null. So like all these ones that are null, it won't count them. It will only count the employees that have commission percentage. So if I run this, it's going to give me only 35. This is another format. This format of count will show me everybody. While this format of count, where I'm supplying a column name to it, is not going to count null value. So it's only counting 35 employees. Are you with me? Now the third format, the third form of count is select, then you say count. Okay, let me, in this place, if I put, let me run this one. Here we have department ID. You can see that this department ID repeat 90, 90, 90, 60, 60, 60. Okay, let me supply that department ID to this place. If I supply department ID here, underscore ID, when I run this one, you can see I have 106, right? It's counting 106 department, meaning this one is not counting null, but it's counting duplicate. So when you supply a column name to count, it's not going to count null, but it will count duplicates along with it. So the third form of count is using distinct. So when I now put the distinct keyword, I am now saying don't bring out duplicate. So only count the department once. So I'm going to say department underscore ID. Then I will close the bracket from employees. So this distinct keyword is going to count the department once. So when I run this one now, it's telling me that I have only 11 distinct departments. Can you see that? So these are the three formats of count